Have you ever wondered why your eyes open in the deepest part of the night, when the world is silent and your soul is wide awake? You didn't wake up by accident, not to check your phone, not because of stress alone. You woke up because something within you was called forward, a whisper, not a shout, a moment where heaven leans closer to earth. Between 3 and 5 in the morning, the noise of the world fades, and what remains is truth. This message is for the ones who wake up confused, restless, thinking too much, feeling too deeply. If that's you, listen carefully. When God wakes you in the deepest part of the night, it is never random. It is not an accident of the body or a malfunction of sleep. It is a moment chosen with precision. During the day, your life is filled with sound. Voices telling you who to be, screens telling you what to want, responsibilities pulling you outward in 1,000 directions. Your mind is constantly negotiating, defending, chasing, reacting. There is no space, no openness, no silence deep enough for truth to land. But between 3 and 5 in the morning, the world loosens its grip on you. The traffic sleeps, the phones are quiet, expectations dissolve, even time seems to slow down. In those hours, you are no longer performing for anyone. You are no longer proving anything. You are simply here, awake, breathing, aware. That is why you wake up then. God does not compete with noise. Truth does not raise its voice. Wisdom does not shout. It waits. It waits until the moment you are finally still enough to receive it. When the world goes quiet, your inner world becomes audible. Thoughts you buried under busyness rise gently. Feelings you avoided during daylight return without aggression, not to attack you, but to speak. Many people fear this silence. That's why they reach for their phones the moment they wake up. They try to fill the space. But silence is not empty. Silence is full of insight, full of memory, full of direction. And when God wakes you at this hour, it is because something important has been waiting patiently for your attention. You see, during the day, you listen with your ears. At night, you listen with your soul. This is when clarity arrives without force. You suddenly understand why a certain path feels heavy, why a relationship drains you, why a dream won't leave you alone. No one explains it to you. No book teaches it to you. You simply know. And knowing arrives quietly. God chooses this hour because your defenses are down, your ego is tired, your rational mind is no longer in control. The part of you that usually interrupts with fear, logic and excuses is resting. What remains is honesty, raw, unfiltered awareness. And in that awareness, truth can finally touch you. Think about it. The most meaningful thoughts you've ever had did not come when you were rushing. They came in moments of stillness, late nights, long drives, quiet mornings. That's where life speaks. That's where God whispers. Waking up at this hour is not meant to scare you. It is meant to soften you. It is an invitation to stop running, to sit with yourself, to notice what has been asking for your attention again and again. Sometimes God wakes you because you've been ignoring the signs during the day. The body listens when the mind refuses. The soul knows when something is misaligned. And when you won't slow down willingly, life gently slows you down for you. This quiet hour is sacred, not because of superstition, but because of availability. You are finally available. No audience, no pressure, no role to play, just you and the presence that has always been with you. If you learn to respect this moment, if you stop treating it as a problem, you'll notice something shift. The anxiety softens, the fear loosens, even unanswered questions feel less heavy. because silence doesn't always give you answers. Sometimes it gives you peace before the answers arrive. So the next time you wake up in that quiet window of the night, don't fight it. Don't label it as stress. Don't escape it. Sit still. Breathe slowly. Let the silence speak. Because when the world is quiet, God is not absent. When you wake up in the middle of the night and your heart feels unsettled, it is not because something is wrong with you. It is because something is trying to come back into balance. Alignment is not something you think about during the day. During the day, you survive. You adapt. You compromise. You do what you must to get rough. But at night, survival steps aside and truth walks in. Your soul is not interested in your excuses. It doesn't care how busy you've been, how tired you are, or how long you've postponed the conversation with yourself. Your soul is precise. When something in your life is misaligned, your work, your relationships, your habits, your values, it begins to whisper. And if you don't listen during the day, it will speak at night. That restlessness you feel when you wake up is not anxiety without purpose. It is awareness knocking. You are being shown that something in your life no longer fits who you are becoming. Maybe it once did. Maybe it made sense years ago. But growth is uncomfortable, and alignment often feels like disruption before it feels like peace. You see, alignment doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with unease, with questions that don't go away, with a subtle feeling that says, this isn't wrong, but it's not right either. During the day, you can drown that feeling in noise. At night, there is nowhere for it to hide. When you wake up at this hour, your soul is asking you to realign with truth. Not the truth you tell others, but the truth you live with. The truth about what fulfills you. The truth about what drains you. The truth about what you've outgrown but are still holding on to out of fear. Fear keeps people misaligned longer than pain ever could. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of starting over. Fear of admitting that you chose something that no longer just serves you. But your soul does not negotiate with fear. It simply signals. And when ignored, it signals louder. Alignment means your inner world and outer life move in the same direction. And when they don't, your body feels it first. Tight chest, shallow breath, interrupted sleep. These are not punishments, they are messages. God does not wake you to judge you. He wakes you to guide you back to integrity, back to purpose, back to the version of yourself that feels honest when no one is watching. Sometimes alignment requires letting go of something that looks good on the outside but feels heavy on the inside. Sometimes it means choosing growth over comfort. Sometimes it means admitting that you've been living on autopilot, following expectations instead of intuition. At night, intuition becomes clear because it is no longer competing with logic. During the day, your mind argues. At night, your soul states facts, simple, direct, unavoidable. You may notice that when you wake up, certain thoughts repeat themselves. The same question, same concern, the same vision. That repetition is not random. That is alignment calling you back again and again until you listen. Alignment does not demand immediate action. It asks for honesty first. Honesty with yourself about what is working and what is not. Honesty about where you feel alive and where you feel numb. Awareness is the first step. Without it, change becomes forced. With it, change becomes natural. When you honor his moment, when you sit with it instead of escaping, it begins to guide you gently. You don't need to solve your entire life at 4 a.m. You only need to listen. Clarity unfolds over time, but only for those willing to Hear the truth when it arrives quietly. Remember this: peace is not found by avoiding discomfort. Peace is found by aligning with what is true. And your soul will always lead you there, even if it has to wake you up to do it. So if you wake up and feel unsettled, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What is trying to realign?" The answer will come, not loudly, not quickly, but faithfully. When you wake up at that hour, the prayer God is asking for is not polished. It is not memorized. It is not something you learned how to say. This is not the hour for performance. This is the hour for honesty. The kind of honesty that has no audience. The kind that doesn't need to sound strong. The kind that doesn't need to make sense. During the day, prayer often becomes routine. Words spoken while the mind is busy elsewhere. Requests stacked on top of requests. Gratitude rushed through between obligations. But at night, especially between 3 and 5, prayer changes its nature. It becomes real, raw, unfiltered, because you are real then. At that hour, you are not pretending to be okay. You are not explaining yourself to anyone. You are not hiding behind strength. You are simply present with what is, and that presence is already a prayer. Sometimes you wake up and don't care now what to say. That's not failure, that's surrender. God does not require vocabulary. He understands breath. He understands silence. He understands the weight you carry without words. There are moments when the most powerful prayer is sitting on the edge of your bed with your hands open, saying nothing and letting your heart speak in its own language. Tears become sentences. Stillness becomes confession. Even confusion becomes communication. This is the hour when you stop asking for things and start telling the truth. The truth about how tired you are. The truth about how scared you feel. The truth about how long you've been holding it together. You don't need to be brave here. You just need to be honest. Many people think prayer is about speaking, but real prayer is about listening. And listening requires silence. That's why this hour matters. Your ego is quiet enough to step aside. Your expectations have loosened. You are not negotiating outcomes. You are simply open. This is when burdens lift, not because they disappear, but because you stop carrying them alone. There is relief in being fully seen without having to explain. There is peace in knowing you don't have to impress God with strength. He already knows your weakness, and He loves you there too. Sometimes prayer at this hour doesn't feel spiritual. It feels human. It feels messy. It feels unfinished. But that is where transformation begins, not in perfection, but in sincerity. You might find yourself repeating the same sentence over and over, or sitting in silence, feeling something shift without knowing why. That is alignment happening beneath the surface. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. This is also the hour where forgiveness begins. Forgiving yourself for what you didn't know then. Forgiving others for what they couldn't give you. Forgiveness doesn't always arrive with closure. Sometimes it arrives as release, soft exhale, a loosening of the chest. God meets you and this honesty, not because you earned it, but because you allowed it. Prayer is not about saying the right thing. It's about showing up with what's real. If you wake up and feel the urge to pray but don't know how, don't force it. Just be present. Let your breath slow. Let your heart speak. Let silence do what words cannot. Because at this hour, prayer is not something you do. It is something you become. When you wake up in the dark and your chest feels heavy, it is not because pain suddenly appeared. Pain has been there, quiet, patient, waiting for the moment when you would finally stop running long enough to notice it. During the day, you are skilled at distraction. You stay busy. You stay productive, you stay strong, you convince yourself that as long as you keep moving, you don't have to feel. But pain is not fooled by motion. It waits for stillness. Night is honest. Night removes the armor, and when the armor comes off, whatever you have been carrying rises gently to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to be acknowledged. Pain does not want to destroy you. Pain wants to be heard. Most people think healing begins when pain disappears. That's not true. Healing begins when pain is allowed to speak without being interrupted, without being judged, without being rushed. And God knows that during the day you rarely allow that space. So He creates it for you. That ache you feel when you wake up, it might be grief you never processed, a disappointment you told yourself didn't matter, a loss you minimized because others had it worse. But pain does not measure itself against others. It measures itself against truth. When pain is ignored, it doesn't shrink. It hardens. It turns into tension in the body, into restlessness in the mind, into exhaustion you can't explain. Waking up at this hour is not punishment. It is mercy. It is life saying, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. There is a reason the pain comes when the world is quiet. Because pain is not loud by nature. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And whispers require silence to be heard. You may notice that when you wake up, certain memories appear uninvited. Moments you thought you had moved past. Conversations you never finished. Versions of yourself you abandoned to survive. This is not regression. This is integration. Healing does not erase the past. It gathers it. It brings the broken pieces back into wholeness. God wakes you because He trusts you. He trusts that you are strong enough now to face what you couldn't before. Pain shows up when you are ready, not when you want, but when you are capable. You don't need to analyze it. You don't need to fix it in one night. You don't need to understand everything it's connected to. You only need to let it exist without resistance. Resistance is what exhausts you. Acceptance is what begins relief. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do at 4 a.m. is sit with your pain and say, I see you, not go away, not you shouldn't be here, just acknowledgement. Pain softens when it is seen. It tightens when it is denied. This is also the hour when compassion is born, not just for others, but for yourself. You begin to understand why you reacted the way you did, why you protected yourself the way you did, why certain wounds shaped you. Self-compassion does not excuse your mistakes. It contextualizes them. And in that understanding, shame loosens its grip. Why? And often carries wisdom inside it. It shows you what matters, what crossed your boundaries, what you loved deeply, what you valued enough to be hurt by. When you listen instead of suppressing it, pain becomes a teacher rather than a burden. God does not ask you to enjoy pain. He asks you to honor it. Because what you honor transforms. What you resist persists. You may feel tears come without a clear reason. Let them. Tears are not weakness leaving the body. They are truth leaving the body. They are tension releasing. They are prayer without words. And when you allow pain to be heard, something quiet but powerful happens. You don't wake up the same. You don't carry the same weight into the next day. You are lighter, not because everything is solved, but because something has been shared. The night doesn't heal you by itself, but it creates the conditions where healing can begin. And sometimes that is all you need. So if pain visits you in the dark, don't push it away. Sit with it, listen, breathe. Because pain that is heard no longer needs to wake you up to be noticed. There is a reason clarity comes to you when the world is asleep. During the day, your mind is busy managing appearances. It calculates outcomes. It worries about how things will look. It debates endlessly. But wisdom does not live in debate. Wisdom lives in stillness. And stillness only arrives when effort stops. At night, the mind loosens its grip. The constant inner commentary fades. The part of you that tries to control everything finally rests. And in that space, something deeper rises. Not thought, knowing. You don't force wisdom. You don't chase it. You don't earn it through exhaustion. Wisdom arrives when you stop interfering. That's why it comes in the quiet hours. No effort, no strain, just presence. You may notice that when you wake up, answers appear without logic. You suddenly know what decision needs to be made. You understand why something has been bothering you. You see a situation clearly, without emotional distortion. That clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from thinking less. This is the hour when intuition speaks clearly. Intuition is not loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't justify itself. It simply states what is true. During the day, intuition is drowned out by noise, opinions, expectations, fears. At night, those voices fall asleep. Intuition remains awake. Wisdom often comes as a simple sentence in your mind, a gentle realization, a shift in perspective. And when it arrives, it feels calm, not exciting, not dramatic, calm. Truth has a peaceful quality to it. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't threaten you. It just settles in. Many people mistake wisdom for intelligence. Intelligence gathers information. Wisdom knows what to do with it. Intelligence is loud and impressive. Wisdom is quiet and precise. And wisdom chooses the night because the night respects silence. There is also something sacred about this hour. Across cultures and centuries, it has been known as a time when insight descends naturally. Not because the hour is magical, but because the human mind is finally empty enough to receive. You don't need to write anything down immediately. You don't need to act on the insight right away. Wisdom does not demand urgency. It trusts timing. It will stay with you. It will return when you need it. What matters is that you notice it, that you respect it. Sometimes wisdom doesn't give you answers. Sometimes it gives you the right questions. Questions that guide you gently instead of pushing you aggressively. Questions like, what am I avoiding? What am I afraid to admit? What would peace look like here? These questions don't overwhelm you. They clarify you. This is also when perspective shifts. Problems that felt huge during the day suddenly feel manageable. Conflicts that felt personal feel less heavy. You begin to see beyond your immediate emotions. You see patterns. You see meaning. Wisdom is not emotional. It is compassionate. It understands your fear without being controlled by it. That's why wisdom feels grounding. It doesn't excite the nervous system. It calms it. God allows wisdom to descend at this hour because you are not asking for it with desperation. You are not demanding outcomes. You are simply available. Availability is the doorway to insight. If you learn to honor this moment, if you stop fighting wakefulness and instead rest inside it, you will notice these insights becoming more frequent, more reliable, less dramatic, but more transformative. The day teaches you how to act. The night teaches you how to understand. And understanding changes everything quietly from the inside out. So when wisdom comes at night, receive it gently. You don't need to grasp it tightly. Let it settle. Let it root. By morning you may not remember every detail, but something will have shifted. Your decisions will feel clearer. Your steps will feel steadier. That is how wisdom works. It doesn't announce itself. It simply guides you softly, faithfully, when the world is quiet enough to listen. When your life is about to expand, restlessness arrives first. Growth does not announce itself with comfort. It announces itself with unease, with disrupted sleep, with a sense that something is shifting beneath the surface, even if you can't yet explain what it is. Before every elevation, there is a period where the old version of you begins to loosen its grip, and that loosening feels uncomfortable. God never promotes without preparation, and preparation often feels like tension. You wake up because your spirit is being stretched beyond what it has known. Your current patterns, habits, and ways of thinking are no longer sufficient for what's coming next. Something in you needs to wake up before the next season can begin. During the day you may feel fine, capable, functional, but at night when defenses drop, the truth becomes clear. You are standing on the edge of growth, and edges are unsettling. They ask you to step beyond familiarity. They challenge your identity. They question what you thought was enough. Preparation is quiet work. It happens internally before anything changes externally. Long before new doors open, your inner world must be strengthened to walk through them. That strengthening feels like pressure, like stretching muscles you haven't used before, like learning to breathe in unfamiliar territory. God wakes you because He is expanding your capacity for patience, for responsibility, for leadership, for faith. What you are asking for, whether consciously or unconsciously, requires more depth than you currently hold. And depth is formed in stillness, not in motion. At night, you begin to confront limitations you ignored during the day, patterns that no longer serve you, fears that kept you small, comfort zones that once protected you but now restrain you. This confrontation is not meant to shame you. It is meant to mature you. You may feel a strange mix of excitement and fear, a sense that something better exists, paired with uncertainty about you. Whether you are ready for it, that tension is not a sign to retreat. It is a sign to prepare. God does not rush growth. He strengthens roots before lifting branches. If growth came too fast, it would break you. So He works slowly, carefully, often invisibly, night after night, shaping your inner posture. Preparation also requires letting go of who you were when survival was the priority, letting go of old coping mechanisms, letting go of narratives that kept you safe but small. This shedding often happens at night because that's when honesty is easiest. You don't need to know exactly what you're being prepared for. You only need to trust that the restlessness has purpose, that your wakefulness is not wasted, that every moment of reflection is building something unseen. Many people ask for more purpose, more peace, more impact, but resist the preparation that comes with it. They want the elevation without the transformation. But God prepares you in private before He reveals you in public. Waking up at this hour is part of that private preparation. It is where your character is refined, where your priorities are adjusted, where your faith is deepened beyond surface belief. If you try to escape this process, you delay what's coming. If you surrender to it, you mature into it. Preparation doesn't always feel productive. It often feels like waiting, like uncertainty, like stillness. But stillness is where strength is formed. So if you wake up feeling restless, don't assume something is wrong. Ask instead, what is being prepared in me? The answer may not come immediately, but over time you'll notice changes. Greater clarity, stronger boundaries, deeper calm, increased courage. And one day, when the opportunity arrives, when the next chapter begins, you'll realize that the night did not disturb you. It trained you. When you wake up in the quiet hours, you are being invited into a choice, not a dramatic one, a simple one. You can turn away and sink back into unconsciousness, or you can sit up and become present. Discipline is not about force. It is about response. It is about what you do when no one is watching and nothing is demanded of you. Destiny does not respond to intention alone. It responds to consistency. And consistency is born in moments like these, small, quiet moments where you decide whether you will listen or avoid. At night, there is no external pressure to do the right thing, no deadlines, no expectations, no applause, which means whatever you choose comes from within. This is where discipline becomes authentic, not imposed. Chosen, God wakes you, because discipline begins with awareness. Awareness of your breath, your thoughts, your posture, your inner state. If you cannot sit with yourself in stillness, you will struggle to stand firm in chaos. Night teaches you how to remain present without stimulation. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment, but true discipline is devotion, devotion to growth, devotion to truth, devotion to the quiet practices that shape your inner world long before results appear. When you wake up and choose stillness over distraction, you strengthen your attention. Attention is power. Where your attention goes, your life follows. At night, you are practicing the ability to direct your focus intentionally rather than reactively. You may feel resistance, the urge to escape, to check your phone, to distract yourself with noise. That resistance is not weakness. It is habit dissolving. And every time you sit through it, you loosen its grip. Discipline is not about doing more. It is about doing less with presence, one deep breath, one honest reflection, one moment of gratitude. These small acts compound over time. God does not ask you to wake up and perform rituals perfectly. He asks you to show up sincerely, to treat the moment with respect, to recognize that how you handle small moments determines how you handle large ones. When you honor this hour consistently, something subtle changes. Your mind becomes steadier, your reactions soften, your days feel less chaotic, not because life becomes easier, but because you become more grounded. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. Each time you listen instead of avoiding, you reinforce the belief that you can be relied upon. That self-trust becomes the foundation for confidence, resilience, and integrity. Many people search for motivation. Discipline is deeper. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline remains. And discipline is trained in silence, not excitement. Night discipline is gentle. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. Even 5 minutes of stillness is enough. What matters is the intention behind it. Over time, these moments reshape your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who listens, someone who honors inner signals, someone who responds rather than reacts. This discipline carries into your waking life. You become more intentional with your time, more aware of your energy, more respectful of your limits. The night teaches you how to live the day. God wakes you not to interrupt your rest, but to deepen your consciousness, to show you that discipline is not about control. It is about alignment, alignment with purpose, alignment with truth. And when discipline becomes devotion, your life begins to move with quiet strength, not rushed, not forced, but steady. When you wake up in the silence of the night, something powerful is waiting for you, and that something is gratitude. Not the kind you say out loud when things are going well, but the kind that rises quietly when nothing is happening, when no one is watching, when you are alone with your breath and your thoughts. Gratitude at this hour is not forced optimism. It is recognition. Recognition that you are still here, still breathing, still being guided, even in confusion, even in pain, even in uncertainty. At night, the mind tends to replay what went wrong, what you said, what you didn't do, what you wish you company. All change. But gratitude interrupts that cycle. It shifts the energy from lack to presence, from fear to grounding, from tension to acceptance. God wakes you at this hour because gratitude is most powerful when it is quiet, when it is not spoken for applause, when it is felt, not performed. Gratitude in the dark rewires the heart. It softens resistance. It opens you. You don't need to feel joyful to be grateful. You only need to notice. Notice that your body carried you through another day. Notice that something unseen protected you. Notice that even your struggles taught you something about yourself. When you offer gratitude at this hour, your nervous system responds. Your breath deepens. Your muscles release. Your mind slows. Gratitude tells the body that it is safe enough to rest, even if the future is uncertain. This is not spiritual bypassing. You are not pretending everything is fine. You are acknowledging that even in difficulty, something remains intact. Your breath, your awareness, your capacity to feel. Gratitude also changes perspective. Problems that felt overwhelming soften, not because they disappear, but because they no longer define the entire moment. Gratitude creates space around pain, and space is where peace enters. You may find yourself thanking God for things you once took for granted. Simple things, small things. These are not small at all. They are the foundation of peace. When gratitude becomes a practice at night, it carries into the day. You become less reactive, less resentful, less rushed. You start to notice what is working instead of only what is missing. God does not ask for gratitude because He needs it. He asks for gratitude because you do. Gratitude aligns you with reality instead of resistance. In this quiet hour, gratitude becomes a form of trust. Trust that life is unfolding even when you don't understand how. Trust that you are being guided even when the path is unclear. Gratitude also invites presence. You stop chasing the next moment. You rest in this one. And presence is where peace lives. If you wake up and feel restless, try gratitude. Not as a technique, as a recognition. Let it rise naturally. One thing is enough, because when gratitude enters the night, fear loses its grip. And when fear loosens, rest returns. When you wake up in the darkness, there is often a strange loneliness that creeps in, the kind that doesn't come from being physically alone, but from feeling unseen. The house is quiet, the world feels far away, and in that stillness, the mind can start telling stories. Stories that say you're on your own, that no one really understands you, that you're carrying more than anyone knows. But the darkness is not abandonment, it is concealment. And there is a difference. A seed grows in the dark, not because the dark is cruel, but because it is protective. Roots are formed where no one can see them. Strength is built in silence long before anything breaks the surface. God works the same way with HU. When you wake up at this hour, it can feel like you've been left alone with your thoughts. But in truth, this is when you are least alone. The noise of the world has stepped back, and what remains is presence. A presence that does not announce itself. A presence that does not demand attention. A presence that simply is Loneliness comes from the belief that you have been forgotten. The night is here to remind you that you are not alone in your questioning. You are not alone in your fear. You are not alone in your uncertainty. You are being held in a space where growth happens quietly, away from judgment, away from comparison, away from the eyes of others during the day. You are surrounded by people, yet often disconnected at night. You may be alone, yet deeply accompanied. Because companionship is not about bodies in a room, it is about awareness in a moment. God does not leave you in the dark. He meets you there, not to entertain you, not to distract you, but to strengthen you. The night teaches you self-reliance without isolation. It teaches you how to sit with yourself without fear, how to feel without panicking, how to trust presence instead of noise. If you allow it, the darkness becomes comforting, not because answers suddenly appear, but because you realize you don't need to be constantly reassured to be safe. You are supported even when nothing is happening. Many of the strongest people you admire were shaped in quiet, unseen moments. Long night, silent struggles, conversations with themselves and with God that no one else ever witnessed. What looks like confidence in the light was built in the dark. This hour reminds you that your value is not dependent on recognition, that your growth does not require an audience, that what is forming in you right now matters even if no one else knows about it. The dark is not the opposite of light. It is the place where light is prepared. So when you wake up and feel alone, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Let it show you that solitude is not emptiness, it is depth. And in that depth, you may feel something steady, something calm, something quietly reassuring. That is not imagination. That is presence. When you truly listen in the quiet hours of the night, something irreversible begins. Listening is not passive. It is not simply hearing sounds or observing thoughts. Listening is an act of surrender. It is the moment you stop trying to control life and allow life to speak back to you. And once you learn how to listen, you do not return to the same way of living again. Most people hear, but very few listen. During the day, hearing is scattered. It is interrupted by urgency, obligation, and noise. You hear messages filtered through fear, ego, and expectation. But at night, listening becomes whole, undivided, pure. You are no longer multitasking. You are no longer managing impressions. You are simply present with what is. That presence changes you. When you stand deeply, you begin to notice patterns instead of isolated problems. You see how certain thoughts repeat, how certain emotions return at specific moments, how certain choices consistently lead you away from peace. This awareness does not arrive as judgment. It arrives as clarity. And clarity is gentle. It does not shame you for where you are. It shows you where you are. Listening reveals truth without accusation. You begin to realize that many of the battles you fight during the day are unnecessary. That much of your exhaustion comes not from effort, but from resistance. Resistance to feeling, resistance to slowing down, resistance to admitting what you already know deep inside. Listening dissolves resistance, and when resistance dissolves, energy returns. You may notice that after nights where you truly listen, your days feel different. Not dramatically different, subtly different. You respond instead of react. You pause instead of rush. You choose words more carefully. You feel less compelled to prove yourself. This is not because life has changed overnight, but because you have. Listening teaches you discernment. You begin to sense when something is aligned and when it is not. Not logically, but intuitively. You feel it in your body, in your breath, in the way your nervous system responds. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is intelligence refined. Many people fear listening because they think it will force them to change everything at once. But listening does not demand immediate action. It demands honesty. Action unfolds naturally from honesty. When you stop lying to yourself, your choices become simpler, not easier but clearer. Our listening also teaches you patience. You realize that not everything needs to be solved immediately. Some things need time, some things need space, some things need to unfold slowly. The night teaches you this rhythm. It shows you that stillness is not stagnation, it is incubation. When you listen, you also begin to trust yourself again. Not the impulsive self, not the fearful self, but the deeper self, the one that knows when to move and when to wait. That trust becomes grounding. You stop seeking constant validation. You stop outsourcing your intuition to the opinions of others. You become anchored. This anchoring changes how you walk through the world. You are less shaken by uncertainty, less reactive to criticism, less dependent on outcomes for peace. You begin to understand that peace is not something you find after everything works out. Peace is something you cultivate before anything changes. Listening in the dark also reshapes your relationship with fear. Fear does not disappear, but it loses authority. You see it for what it is, a signal, not a command, a messenger, not a master. When fear speaks, you listen without obeying blindly. You acknowledge it, then choose consciously. This is power, quiet power. You also begin to notice that life communicates with you constantly, through sensations, through silences, through discomfort, through ease. When you are not listening, these messages feel like chaos. When you are listening, they feel like guidance. Listening makes you receptive, and receptivity changes everything. You become more compassionate with yourself and with others. Because when you listen deeply to yourself, you understand how complex being human really is. You stop expecting perfection. You stop demanding certainty. You allow growth to be messy. This compassion softens your relationships. You judge less. You understand more. You also become more responsible, not in a heavy way, in an empowered way. You stop blaming circumstances for how you feel. You stop waiting for permission to change. You recognize your agency not over everything, but over your responses, and response is where freedom lives. As listening becomes a practice, your priorities begin to shift. Things that once consumed your energy no longer hold the same grip, not because they vanished, but because they no longer align with who you are becoming. You don't have to force detachment. Detachment happens naturally when clarity deepens. You may also notice grief arise, not for what you lost, but for what you tolerated, for the time you spent disconnected from yourself. This grief is not meant to punish you, it is meant to honor your growth. It marks the moment you outgrow an old way of being. Listening helps you forgive, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness becomes less about forgetting and more about releasing. Releasing the need for closure, releasing the need for justice to look a certain way, releasing the weight you were never meant to carry indefinitely. Listening also strengthens faith, not blind faith, but lived faith. Faith rooted in experience. Faith built from moments where you were guided without explanation, where things aligned quietly, where you were supported in ways you couldn't predict. This kind of faith is calm. It does not need to convince anyone. It simply trusts. Over time, listening reshapes your identity. You no longer define yourself solely by roles, achievements, or struggles. You define yourself by awareness, by presence, by integrity. You become someone who lives from the inside out rather than the outside in. This transformation is not loud. It does not announce itself, but others will feel it. In your calm, in your steadiness, in the way you hold space, in the way you respond under pressure, you become a grounding presence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are anchored. Listening teaches you that life is not asking you to rush. It is asking you to be real, to be present, to be aligned, and alignment creates momentum without force. You stop chasing peace and start embodying it. You stop waiting for certainty and start trusting process. You stop fearing silence and start valuing it as sacred. The night becomes a teacher, not a disturbance. Mindfulness becomes guidance, not inconvenience. Why? Oh, stop asking, why can't I sleep? And start asking, what is being shown to me? And slowly, gently, life responds. Decisions feel clearer. Boundaries feel firmer. Purpose feels less abstract. You may not have a detailed map, but you trust the direction. You walk forward with humility instead of urgency, with faith instead of fear. This is what happens when you listen. You don't become someone else. You become more yourself, stripped of noise, grounded in truth, guided by presence. And once you learn to listen in the dark, you carry that listening into the light. You move through your days with a deeper awareness. You notice when you're drifting. You realign sooner. You recover faster. Life doesn't stop challenging you, but it stops confusing you, because listening teaches you one final truth. You were never abandoned. You were never lost. You were always being guided, quietly, patiently, faithfully. The night was never trying to wake you up to disturb your rest. It was waking you up to remind you who you are. So the next time you wake up in the middle of the night, don't curse the silence. Don't fight the stillness. Bow to it, because God doesn't wake you up to take your peace. He wakes you up to give it back. What you listen to in the dark is what will guide you in the light. Trust that moment, honor that whisper, move with faith, not fear, and remember this timeless truth. When you learn to be still enough to hear God, you become strong enough to walk anywhere life sends you. Sleep will return, answers will come. But the soul that listens never gets lost again.